Okay, hi again. This is the history story of the night from Princesses Behaving Badly. This is the story of Khutulun, the princess who ruled the wrestling mat. She lived in Central Asia from about 1260 to 1306. Princess Khutulun's parents were getting nervous. It wasn't just that their little girl was a bit of a tomboy. Most women in 13th century Mongol tribes were capable of playing rough. What was worrying was that Khutulun was approaching 20 years old, practically a spinster, and still wasn't married. She refused to wed anyone who couldn't beat her at her favorite sport, wrestling. And so far, no one could. Even worse, the nasty rumors about why she remained single were starting to tarnish her father's reputation. A bold prince who fit all the specs had come forward to accept Khutulun's challenge. He was so cocksure of winning that he put a herd of 1,000 horses on the line. Khutulun's anxious parents pressured her to let him win. But would she go to the mat, even for the sake of her kingdom? Khutulun had battle in her blood. Born around 1260, she was the daughter and favorite child of Kaidu Khan, a fierce regional ruler in Central Asia. She was also the niece of Kublai Khan, the great-great-granddaughter of Genghis Khan, and the only girl in a family of 14 boys. That she took up wrestling is no surprise. But that she turned out to be unbelievably good at it, so good that no man in the kingdom could best her, that was a problem. Some chroniclers describe Khutulun as beautiful, although that might have been a bit of artistic license. She was big-boned, broad-shouldered girl who, from an early age, was taught to ride and to shoot with bow and arrow. In Mongol tribes, both sexes learned to defend their flocks of sheep, and a bow made an ideal weapon for children and women because it required precision rather than great strength to wield. Unlike other Mongolian girls, however, Khutulun also learned to wrestle. She proved to be exceptional at all of it, which endeared her to her father tremendously. As she grew up, her father came to lean on her for strength, support, advice, and battle prowess. Khutulun's skills were remarkable enough to attract the attention of outsiders like Marco Polo, the nomadic Venetian merchant whose travel chronicles gave birth to the West's fascination with the East. But in Mongolian royal tradition, she may not have been so unusual. Besides their skill at archery, Mongolian royal women commanded armies, raced horses, and ruled vast territories. Genghis Khan considered his daughters superior leaders compared to his sons, and he awarded them kingdoms that they defended tooth and nail, oftentimes against their male siblings. Khutulun was clearly an inheritor of Mongolian X-chromosomal martial strength. When at her father's side in battle, which was pretty often since Kaidu was perpetually at war with Kublai Khan's forces, she was terrifying. Marco Polo reports that at the right moment, she would, quote, make a dash at the host of the enemy and seize some man thereout as deftly as a hawk pounces on a bird and carry him to her father, end quote. Stories of Khutulun's battlefield prowess were passed around contemporary chroniclers as lurid, tantalizing tales of war-mad Mongols. But among the tribes, it was Khutulun's wrestling skills that made her a legend. She was unbeatable. Mongols frequently bet horses on wrestling matches, and she reportedly amassed more than 10,000 by winning all her bouts. As Marco Polo noted, Khutulun, a veritable giantess, refused to marry unless her prospective groom could beat her in the ring. By 1280, enemies of Khutulun's family were spreading rumors that the reason she refused to marry was that was because she was not only her father's favorite, but his lover as well. Then along came that eligible young prince and his wager of 1,000 horses to try his luck. He was quite the catch, according to Marco Polo. A noble young gallant, the son of a rich and puissant king, a man of prowess and valiance and great strength of body, not to mention handsome, fearless, and strong in every way. Seeing a way out of an uncomfortable predicament, Khutulun's parents pressured her to throw the match. At first, it looked like she would. Polo, history's favorite tourist, witnessed the event and attests that, quote, they grappled each other by the arms and wrestled this way and that, but for a long time neither could get the better of the other, end quote. But the match was over when Khutulun threw her opponent, quote, right valiantly onto the palace pavement, and when he found himself thus thrown and her standing over him, great indeed was his shame and discomfiture, end quote. Khutulun now had no prince, and another 1,000 horses to feed. Eventually, and probably to her parents' great relief, Khutulun did marry. But it wasn't to a man who beat her on the wrestling mat. It was, gossips claimed, true love. Little is known about the man who finally tamed her heart, other than that she chose him of her own volition. But not even marriage could bring this princess to the mat. She still fought alongside her father, venturing ever deeper into Mongolia and China on punishing military campaigns. When Kaidu died of battle wounds in 1301, there was even talk of Khutulun succeeding him as Khan. That didn't fly with the rest of her family, especially all those brothers. You should mind your scissors and needles, one of them said, according to a contemporary Persian historian. What happened to her next is unclear. Her detractors claim that she spent the years after her father's death stirring up sedition and strife in support of her brother's candidacy for Khan. By 1306, she was dead, either killed in battle or assassinated by a rival sibling. Khutulun's death signaled a change in Mongolia and the empire that Genghis Khan had built. She was the last of the wild warrior women leaders of the tribes. One theory posits that as women began to fall away from leadership, the ruling of the empire was left to increasingly indolent men. As a result, the Mongol Empire stagnated and disintegrated. Maybe. Khutulun's legend might have been forgotten if not for an exotic tale titled Turandot, published in a volume of fables by French scholar François Petit de la Croix in 1710. Petit de la Croix came across her story while researching his biography of Genghis Khan, and he transformed the brutish wrestling princess into a beautiful 19-year-old daughter of a fictional Chinese emperor who refused to marry unless her suitor could prove himself her intellectual equal. In 1761, the story became Turandot, a play by Italian playwright Carlo Gozzi, featuring a tigerish woman whose pride is her undoing. Turandot became Giacomo Puccini's Turandot, the opera he was working on when he died in 1924. It was completed by a colleague. In Mongolian culture, Khutulun is remembered by the sport in which she so excelled. These days, when Mongolian men wrestle, they wear a sort of long-sleeved vest that is open in the front to prove to their opponents that they don't have breasts. It is a tribute to the woman wrestler who was never defeated. Good night.